tuned into 1100 WSGI, and this is Lee Marie with a special edition Go Show with Wild Doc. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much. Thank you for your protection, for your angels of protection all around us. We pray for all of those affected by these storms coming across America. Thank you so much for protecting us here in Robertson County. Please take today's show exactly where you want it to go. Have those people tune in that you want to hear this show. We love you. We praise you. May everything we do and say glorify you as we put you first and seek you first. We love you. In the mighty name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
All right. Wow, Doc. Well, that was a coincidence, you know.
Right.
I was driving here, and I turned on 1100, my favorite station, and I hear her talking and saying that she had an oncology nurse practitioner on, and yeah,
Yep.
just like God. I'm not surprised, you know. God's in control. He knows what's going on. Because I had asked Wild Doc a couple days ago. I said we had some questions on cancer. Can you just share some of your thoughts on cancer? And so that is going to be our leading topic. And then, of course, wherever the Lord leads, we go.
All right.
So how you doing?
I'm well.
How is the water situation driving here? Did you have to
No problem.
Oh, good.
I mean,
excellent.
creeks and ditches seem to be flowing a little bit, but
Okay, good.
the water standing in some yards. Some big old oak trees have been blown down, and luckily somebody had a chainsaw close by. I was able to cut them up and pave way for others to pass through.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been good.
All right, good. Good to know out there. And if you're still at home and you haven't gone out yet, there you go. It's not as bad as I thought anyway. I thought I might have to, go through some. I still packed my muddies because I was like, well, just in case.
Yep.
All right. So where do you want to start?
Well, it's cancer is the topic, is it not?
It is. And one reason why I thought of it is I was on Facebook and somebody had posted something that said something like, and I'm going to probably mess this up, but they said cancer is like a nest of parasites. And sometimes if you poke it, it can spread and do worse.
Were they talking about the idea of potentially like biopsies,
right,
and stuff like that?
Right. Yeah, that's what they were talking about.
Let me see if I can bring some stuff up. Maybe talk from research, but so I understand that concept and potential, but the reality is, so there's a couple studies here,
and we don't have to just be on that. It's just that was what kind of
the post-operative breast biopsies are risks of, I have a couple on this subject. Sentinel lymph node metastasis, analysis of 2,500 plus cases. Let's look at a couple of these. But, there are tumors that body encapsulates. And when it does that, in theory, going in and opening up that capsule could potentially allow for tumor cells to leach out, debris to break off. Then you've got inflammatory responses that take place, and whether your body can regulate that inflammation and use it for good, or it can't regulate that and it winds up negatively impacting the patient. So there are risks and chances that are being taken. Let's read the conclusion. I don't know where this one lands because I don't have any highlights on it, but let's just read it. Conclusion based on the present data is that post-operative breast biopsies does not cause artificial tumor cell spread with possible negative impact on prognosis of breast cancer. So that one said no. Let's look at the other study that I have on hand. Seeding of tumor cells following biopsy. Interval between biopsy and surgery lengthens, then the incidence of seeding declines, which suggests that displaced tumor cells are not viable. So, there's mixed. I know that was something that I was like, in theory, and I went down the rabbit hole, read some research studies, and I see a biopsy as not this horrific procedure that has the risk of taking you from a situation of less risk to a situation of massive risk. And because the reality is I have another one. I mean, I use this study article all the time. There's a doctor that I wonder if it's in that flip through all the ones that I've got hidden. I mean, I've got a slide presentation here in front of me. I'm flipping through that's several hundred pages or slides long. And there's a doctor, and I'm paraphrase it. I love to read directly from it, give you all the resources. What I tell people is the way my brain works, and ultimately so that people can't attempt to claim that I'm giving you cancer advice off of my own just general opinion. I like to reference those articles and studies so you kind of see where I'm coming from and why. But this was oncology surgeon, and he talks about how we really give people false hope. And he's a mainstream surgeon, all right? And he says, we remove the tumor and say, you're all set. We got it all. That was basically his exact words. We got it all. And he's like, but in reality, we never can. Because long before a tumor, a solid mass tumor, can be seen on any medical device, X-ray, MRI, ultrasound, any of them, tumor cells have already broken off and seeded themselves in other areas. Now it is that environment of that tissue where they seed themselves, just like a seed that you cast in a field, the sower of the seeds, story in the Bible, they could spring up, but if they are on unfertile soil and rock, they're going to die out. So even the cancer cells could die out in other areas of the body. It has to seed itself within a viable area of your body that would allow it to grow. Well, what creates that environment is actually tissue cellular mechanisms that dictate growth and repair mechanisms that are kind of harnessed by cancer cells to allow them to grow. Also, your immune system, is it looking for cancer? Does it have healthy surveillance capability, and is it going to kill it off? And then also nervous system. They have shown in animal studies that taking the nervous system and removing nerve supply from regions of an animal's body and areas that are not going to kill the animal, but having a compromised immune system in that region of the animal's body, they can implant tumor cells. So again, if you're thinking about biopsies and things like that, you take tumor cells and you cast them like seeds. Some seeds may land on fertile ground and some others. Well, it has to be an immune compromised situation, or it needs to be in a nervous system compromised region of the body. And so when they would implant cancer tumors into these animals without any nervous system dysregulation or removal of nerve supply to that region, the cancer would actually completely die away and go away. So it was like they healed themselves from cancer. You couldn't give an animal cancer by implanting cancer into them.
Interesting.
Because they had a healthy, intact immune system and they had a healthy, intact nervous system. But when they did what was called a sympathectomy, removing the sympathetic nerve chains that transmit signals from the brain to the body or the body to the brain. So it's a two-way street and communication pathway. And once they did that, the tumors could grow. Once they damage the nerves, tumors could grow. That's why as a chiropractor, I'm not claiming that I can cure you of cancer, but I'm going to say, hey, can we optimize your nervous system function? And they have studies when it comes down to it of nervous systems. The nervous system, see if I can bring it up. It might be in a different file and folder. Not in this folder. I have a cancer folder with, probably 100 different types of subjects: toxicity, vaccines in cancer, thyroid in cancer, testing in cancer, statistics, squamous cell, skin cancers, screening in general, rhabdomyosarcomas, so a bunch. But so I think it's over in my chiropractic folder. But what they've shown is with like prostate and breast cancer being two of the most prevalent cancers out there, they have studies with both of these cancers because it's a high population, a lot of people, so we can do more studies on it, okay? And so I would assume that it's going to be a blanket statement, probably amongst all different types of cancers, but what they have shown is you can take a cancer and trigger it to go metastatic by stressing the person out.
Wow.
Causing stress, which dysregulates the nervous system. And that's a scary situation for people because people get stressed out just going in for mammogram or a prostate check sometimes.
Right.
Men probably not. Women typically do. They stress until they find that, oh, we didn't hear that they didn't find anything. But you take the women who have benign cancers, and this is a rabbit hole you'd have to go down with me with a lot of time, and I'd have to really organize it so I can walk people through it. But what they've shown is there are a lot of tumors that are being found on mammograms and prostate cancer tests and on screenings for thyroid cancer, some of the most widely prevalent, most frequent cancers found and tested for. They're showing clearly, this is why Switzerland has completely abolished mammography screening in their country. Clearly shown that they are finding benign cancers and ultimately sending women through treatment when ultimately those benign tumors would have never negatively affected that woman in the first place. And it's the aggressive ones that they're not really finding well. And those aggressive ones were the ones that they needed to treat the women. So basically they're saying we're treating women and men who really don't need to be treated because these are slow growing cancers. They're fairly benign. They're likely going to die of something else before they die of the cancer itself. Now, there's a caveat to that, because maybe if we theorize that if we could lessen the stress around it, give people more and more hope, and not just utilize. And so if you were going to say you want to utilize the mainstream medicines, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, those do not address the underlying causes of cancer. That is why even when you treat a cancer that needs to be treated and beat it back for a little bit with a toxic chemical or drug like chemotherapy, inhibit its growth with hormone deprivation, you are going to increase the likelihood of the person dying from stroke and heart attack, or developing diabetes, or developing secondary cancers that come about due to radiation and chemotherapy's effect on stem cell cancer growth. So you have this risk association that's clear in the medical literature that there are, grenades can destroy the rats in your house, but the reality is you're left with shambles, and now you have a lot of open spaces for a lot of other vermin to get in. We need to be discussing what could be done in synchrony if you're going to choose those therapies to lessen the degree of harm to your healthy tissues and your body, like your immune system, because that is a very well-researched issue in mainstream medicine's approach to cancer, is everything from even surgery to chemo and radiation has a negative effect on our immune system. And those are our soldiers who are surveilling our entire body to make sure that cancer tissue doesn't seed itself in other areas. And when you weaken the surveillance, if we got rid of the cops or just said, you know what, amongst these cops are criminals, let's go ahead and bomb them all and kill cops and kill criminals. Yay, we got rid of a cluster of criminals. Well, we had a cluster, and it doesn't work with clustering with the immune system, but you get my analogy here. If we did that and we're like, oh, shoot, now we're down to like a tenth of our police in this community. Well, we didn't take care of all the cells of individual criminals around, and all of a sudden, now that there's no policing, they're like, hey, buddy, there's no police. What happens to temptation to somebody who is not yet willing to be a criminal because there's too many police around? They're like, hey, I'd get on this boat of robbing banks. There's no police around. And that's what's happening. And that's why there's such a issue within our healthcare system that American medicine needs to open up to the idea that the reality is there's so much more that could be done. There should be people willing to talk. I might stand on the side and say, personally, I don't want chemo, radiation, or surgery. No way, never. Like that's my personal belief at this moment in time. Yes, I'm not facing it at the moment, but hey, can we discuss what I would do if I had to push all the way to accepting chemotherapy or radiation? What would I do to counter the negative effects, keep the police alive? Could we give them some more body armor before we bomb them with nutrition, with gut health strategies, things like that? That's the reality. And let me read something very quickly here that will put into perspective that this isn't the Wild Doc's personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
This is an article that I pulled from back in 2013. This is back in 2013. And if you look for and talk to people who went through cancer therapy back in 2013 versus now, there's not a lot that has changed. They are using more immunomodulating drugs, trying to use the immune system to a degree. That's a rabbit hole in itself as well, with certain things like cancer vaccines, which several of the initial ones were done fraudulently. The researchers were called out for the way in which they set up the trials. So again, there's so many thoughts that I would love to really need to discuss with people to really give people a very good perspective on this and why I have my perspective where it is. But here's an article. U.S. cancer care delivery is in crisis, a report shows. The cancer treatment has grown so complex, many U.S. doctors can't keep up with new information and are offering incorrect treatments, failing to explain the options, and leaving patients to coordinate their own care, according to a report released Tuesday by the Institute of Medicine. So a government review said most doctors, so many doctors, I mean, this is scary because I haven't really heard how they did yo, everybody, we're giving incorrect treatment. We need to get the word out like crazy, and we need all the oncologists out there to return to school and get training on where they're going wrong, how they're doing wrong, what else could be done. Let's coordinate care appropriately. And it's sad. Like, I mean, I had one, she's like, well, I was told cancer, they booked me an appointment here. They booked me an appointment there. I went to the one. He's like, I don't know what you're doing here. I don't have anything to look back and go back to them until you get this. And it's just like, they're like, I'm literally going and nobody's communicating. Wow. Nobody's coordinating. He's saying, I don't need this type of treatment. They sent me to him and booked the appointment. And then I go over here and he's saying I need to do the chemotherapy. This guy's saying he doesn't need to do the chemotherapy. We can just do radiation. And it's just like, this is the reality of many cancer patients in America, right?
And all along that, they're not really even talking about nutrition. I have a friend who's been in cancer treatment for quite a while, and I see her drinking, these Diet Cokes and different things. And I said, don't they, no, yeah, I can have anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's completely incorrect. That is not scientific. The science is extremely clear. I had and it's sad, this lady, through pressure from family members who are in the medical community, this pastor, and this is what's crazy to me. I will share her story. This was before I introduced functional medicine to my clinic, before I was studying functional immunology, before I really had the knowledge that I have now. I had the simple idea that, you feed the body God's foods and you take some herbs that God created that have immunosupportive effects and things like that. And so this pastor, one of her daughters was a nurse and was very adamant she did not like me. She did not like that I was trying to. And I wasn't trying to convince her mom not to do it. I'm openly sharing that, like, I personally wouldn't go chemo and radiation. Like, the type of breast cancer you have is 5-year mortality is atrocious. Like, so triple negative breast cancer is one of the most deadly breast cancers. That's what she had. And, so, I'm like, that statistic of your mom making it 5 years is horrific in the if you just do what the medical community is doing. I'm telling you, at least add these things to it. And I was talking nutrition and things like that. Her oncologist said, nope, nutrition has nothing to do with it. Ironically, that morning, and again, this was 12, 15, I've been in practice about 15 years, so I was probably like 1 or 2 years into practice. And I'm like, no way. No, nutrition has a huge impact. And what I found the morning of her consult was that there was a study done, and eating an additional 5 servings of fruits and vegetables statistically meant that a triple negative breast cancer patient could reach statistical likelihood of surviving just as well as all of the other breast cancers. So it took the most deadly to basically the same as everybody else. And that's a human trial. And, the problem is they say, well, maybe if they ate fruits and vegetables, that actually people who eat fruits and vegetables tend to exercise more. So we can't say it's the fruit and vegetables. We have to say maybe it's something else like the other lifestyle factors. Maybe they sleep better. Maybe they're less. Maybe they have more money, so that affects something else they buy in their home. What if it's that they exercise? Because most people who eat fruits and vegetables, they exercise as well. And I'm like, what if it's everything? And you found a statistical significant increase in survival by eating fruits and vegetables. So why don't you say, here's research, this is what it says. Yes, there are limitations. We can't say that just doing that alone is going to increase the survival. It may have been the other lifestyle factors that are likely at play as well. Why don't you just do it all, you know? And so her oncologist that morning said, nope, has nothing to do with survival of cancer. And I showed her that study, and even her, she's like, and she's saying to me, I know God wanted me here. I know God wanted me. She went to a those nail salons. She's getting her nails done. This is a story from this pastor. And the lady, and she, you know, I guess ladies, when they go to have their nails are done, they share what's going on in life. They just have, it's like therapy sometimes. I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? It's just like community.
Well, everybody's facing the same way. Everybody just ends up talking. Yeah.
And she's chit-chatting with this lady who is a native to, she was an Asian lady, and she had moved here. So she's like the first generation native to America, okay, or moved to America. And she says to this pastor, she just goes, you know, in my home country, when we get cancer, all we do is we stop eating junk. We eat fruits and vegetables. We take walks. We relax, and we take some herbs. That's literally most what everybody does, and it seems pretty successful. Like literally, was just like nonchalant about it. Like, don't fret. Eat some fruits and vegetables. Take some herbs. Take walks in nature. They have actually shown that in human trials, walking in nature, which is called forest bathing in Asian medicine. It's not going out and getting a bathtub and stripping down in soap and water. It's just just immersing yourself in nature on a very frequent basis actually enhances natural killer cells, which cells of your immune system that go after cancer cells, that kill cancer, that survey the environment of your body to say, is this cell supposed to be here or not? Is this a malfunctioning cell? Is it a cancer cell? Oh, that's not a healthy cell. Let's kill it. And just getting in nature does that. And they showed it to benefit and improve survival in cancer patients. I have never heard mainstream medicine tell somebody just take walks at the local nature park every day. Like that's something like a standard practice in my office, that if somebody has it, well, hey, here's some extremely simple things to do. Take walks in nature. If you're eating standard American diet and drinking diet soda and things like that that are very toxic, I want you to stop eating those things, and I want you to eat nothing but what God made. Okay, that means if you can pull it, pluck it, peel it, and harvest it yourself, go ahead and eat it right now. That's all I would need to do. And literally I could double or triple, if they took that advice, their opportunity to survive 5 years.
Wow.
Like that's what the research actually shows. I'm not crazy. Like it's like, here is one study. I'll show you.
Before you do that,
Yeah, go
let's
ahead.
get a couple breaks in here, because this is fascinating stuff. I know a lot of people want to tell their friends, hey, turn this on, and by all means, share the show. All right, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
The Dunn family would like to thank everyone who participated in the tour of Coldstream Christian Camp during Experience Robertson County. Coldstream Christian Camp is now taking reservations. Ministry workers, men's and women's groups, small churches, and families will enjoy rest, retreat, and grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Coldstream Christian Camp, partnering with families and churches since 1980. For more information, visit coldstreamchristiancamp.org or call 615-696-2208. 615-696-2208, and tell them Lee Marie sent you.
All right, and I do want to remind you all that Coldstream Christian Camp has a work day coming up, and that is going to be Saturday, the 12th of April. So a week from this Saturday is going to be the work day, and that's going to be from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. So whether you need some volunteer hours for something or whatever, you just want to sow into the kingdom, great opportunity to really make an impact. So Again, that's Coldstream Christian Camp, Spring Workday, the April 12th at 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. All right, we are back with Wild Doc, giving us some interesting thoughts on cancer. And so you were just getting ready to tell about another
Yeah,
case, so go
just
ahead.
kind of making. So this is a research study. This was published in 2002, and think about that, 2002. Do you know anybody that you've known that has been told by a oncologist in Tennessee when they're battling cancer that they should be on ginseng? None. But since 2002, this was a human trial. Here are the results. With this specific type of cancer, they said the 5-year disease-free survival was 68.2% in the ginseng group versus 33% in the conventional group. That's more than a doubling of their disease-free survival rate. Overall survival, so this is being alive, was 76.4% in the ginseng group. So disease-free survival, 68%. That means at 5 years, you're still alive, but you don't have cancer. So overall survival, so then between 68 to 76, that's about 8%. They had they were surviving, but they had cancer, okay? So in the ginseng group, it was 76.4% overall survival, 38.5% in the conventional treatment only group. Conventional American medical treatment for cancer, for this specific cancer. Only 38, less than 40% were alive, almost double the number. And that was only taking the only measurement they did, okay, that they were looking at was whether they were taking ginseng or not. Like, so that's what's crazy is like, I can't tell you that taking ginseng alone without standard, because this was a study done with, you did conventional treatment and you took ginseng versus those who did not take ginseng. It doubled their survival rate. Like that, like why? Why isn't every single oncologist that deals with this cancer telling somebody, oh, because we don't know the mechanism exactly, how this herb works. What if it's not really the herb and those people who are choosing to take ginseng are actually choosing to eat fruits and vegetables and exercise and doing these other things? And those are the things. So we can't prove without a shadow of a doubt that ginseng is the only thing that it takes to double the survival. Therefore, we can't advertise that it's ginseng because we don't know for sure. Well, let somebody help them with all the possible. Like, that's what I tell people, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to treat your cancer, but I can help you weed through the research a whole lot faster and show you all the, I can take lists of different cancers and show you lists in the peer-reviewed medical literature that it shows certain fruits or vegetables to be the most effective for your type of cancer. It was like a dozen different cancers were taken, from prostate, kidney, to breast cancer, to brain cancer, things like that, and how certain herbs that are common in the American diet, I can give you the 10 most anti-cancer herbs for those cancers. Wow. And so that's what I do. I say, here's information, here's more information, here's more information. I'm not telling you that I'm treating your cancer. I'm telling you, I am your guide through to sift through all this medical information that you're not going to get typically. Now, there are more integrative oncology practices in America popping up where they're bringing in herbalists, they're bringing in nutritionists, they're bringing in people who are understanding the benefits of milk thistle and its benefits to protect the liver, or turmeric and its enhancement of chemotherapy effectiveness. There's clinics that are now doing, in conjunction with mainstream medicines, chemotherapy and radiation, doing hyperbarics because it alters the tumor environment that then enables the chemotherapy or drugs or even the immune system to kill it off. They show that fasting can actually improve outcomes and recovery and increase the body's own mechanisms that destroy cancer tumors, but then also like eating prior to could potentially stimulate insulin release that then, because cancer cells are so metabolically and dependent on insulin receptors for their energy production, that when you do that in a specific timing, it enhances the effectiveness of the treatments, whether it be alternatives like IV vitamin C or whether it be the chemotherapy, and it enhances the tumor die-off by timing when you eat. And it's extremely complex, and I'm not the expert on this, but I'll tell you, I've never sat down with somebody that knew as much as I did when they're the ones facing cancer. And I've never had anybody take the information and go back to or tell me, nope, my oncologist has it. They're already doing all of that. Not a single cancer patient's ever walked through my doors has said to me, I've already applied everything that you're telling me to do. And what if it's 5%? What if it's 2%? What if it's 50% like ginseng studies have shown? I think the cancer patients deserve to know this stuff. And it just, I rack my brain around why not.
And that ginseng study was in 2002? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So, I mean, there's a lot of oldies but goodies that are sitting there. Like, if that study could be a human being with a word to help somebody survive, that study's just like, why does nobody listen to me? So thousands of people could be alive today if somebody would just listen to me. It's kind of the way I feel at times. I'm like, because it's just, I don't know. This is the world, sadly, we live in. And I think with COVID in the last 4 years, the questioning the medical establishment and their ability to really handle health emergencies has woke a lot of people up to the reality of like, hey, the system. And the reality is, once you graduate from medical school, you go to CEs. Sadly, the situation that's been created in the medical community is that the CEs, the classes most people go to that are paid for them sometimes and mostly, are the ones being promoted by the drug companies. And so all they get is, well, I can go on a cruise ship, all expenses paid for me and my family. This is documented in the medical literature about how the drug companies have kind of captured the audience of the medical physicians and oncology industry to only study their drugs every year. So even though they're required to take continuing education, if all they're in continuing education is not, there's no ginseng farmer going around and saying, hey, I will pay for your cruise ship and your vacation for you and your family if you listen to me talk about this ginseng study. This is not happening. So what do you think oncologists are going to do? And I understand I might be stepping on some toes, but I really don't care. I'll kick you in the shin and wake you up if I have to. Like, it's just like, if you are the supposed expert, then know more research than what I do. You may know more research on how your drugs work, what drugs are approved for this, that, the other one. That's not what I study. I study what could be done to support your clients, your patients. And I'm like, I believe that every oncology center should have that supportive end. Like, it should not be allowed to not, because what people are going with their expectation is, I'm going to the experts. And if we need to formulate teams, let's do it.
So that's fascinating about certain cancers, being more reactive to certain foods. I know one time I heard a very similar person to you, who I respect as well, talking about colon cancer. And he was saying that was actually one of the easier cancers to fight because those cells replicate so fast. So, I mean, it's bad, but if you're feeding it really good, then you can reverse it. Well, is that true, or is that just kind of an overstatement?
I have a breast cancer patient in my clinic. She just got word that she's a non-responder to her chemotherapy. Now she's learned, because she's self-educating actually, things that I even didn't know. She could have done some metabolic and genetic testing beforehand to know that she was highly likely to not be a responder. But she didn't respond. Well, cancers can sit there in a non-replicating or slow replicating state. And if they are, chemotherapy, it comes in during cellular rapid replication. That is why the mucous membranes, like your gastrointestinal lining, like your vaginal lining, like your mucous membranes of your sinuses in your mouth, oftentimes will ulcer and become very inflamed and damaged due to chemotherapy, is because those cells naturally, those healthy cells, are actually rapidly turning over. Cancer usually is the key word there. Not always. And that is the problem with the cancer industry. They should be doing more fine-tuned testing to determine whether somebody's cancer is likely to respond or not, explaining that, and then saying, and if they were, I can't really understand why, if the testing said you're really highly likely statistically not to be it, let's find another avenue that doesn't weaken and destroy. It's like, oh man, those criminals are highly, we're going to gas them. But somehow the criminals have gas masks on. And we could have done a test to figure that out. The police didn't. We killed a bunch of police with the gas, and now the criminals are left. Oh, shoot. We failed to do the test that could have shown that it's highly likely that the vast majority of those criminals have gas masks on. We should have looked at that first. Shoot, we gave the chemotherapy the gas bomb, and none of the police officers had gas masks on. Oh boy, we're in a bad situation now, because now the patient's more likely to have the cancer go aggressive. Like, that is the reality of the situation people are in right now, and that is horrible to think about. That we have, that the scientific available information says we should have been doing all this, but it's not being integrated into mainstream, or it's being extremely slowly integrated in only a few select clinics around the United States. And that's why I know people in Mexico right now going there for alternative cancer treatments, because they look at all of the things that can be done. And these people are like, what can we do? It's like, can we do meditation, sound, being in nature? Can we add in ozone therapy? They're doing immunotherapy. They're doing certain different off-label purpose medications that affect the metabolism. They're using juicing, but they're also doing periods of fasting that metabolically change the tumor environment to make their therapies and their medications or their herbs be more effective. They're using hyperbarics. It's like, that is truly what people deserve, because that's that. We need to start doing stuff like that.
Right. All right, let's hear from a couple more of our sponsors. I tell you, these talks, Wild Doc, we really need like 2 hours because there's so much, many.
My staff and my wife is always like, they're like, how long is the talk scheduled for? And they're like, dude, you couldn't get all your information out in 3 hours.
All right, let's go ahead and hear about one of our sponsors.
At the UPS store, we have everything to help small business owners be unstoppable. So if you need printing, we'll be the
All right, I'm going to talk about UPS because another ad wanted to be right on top of that one. So UPS, they are our favorite place to get all of our print jobs done. Of course, I know all of you guys do your Amazon returns over there, but they also do fabulous work. You can email them your print jobs. I was showing Wednesday this book right here that was not a spiral bound book. They spiral bound it for me, which was awesome. So they do business cards, flyers. They have somebody on site now, a designer. So, if you don't even have your artwork done, you can go ahead and go into UPS. And then don't forget to say hello to Miss Deborah over there, because she is one of our regular people over here at WSGI, and she always does a great job. But go see UPS. Right there on Memorial Boulevard, not too far from 5th. And actually, it's in the same parking lot as H.G. Hill. So go by UPS. Tell them you heard about it on the Goi Show with Lee Marie. All right. I can't believe it's 1:45. I do have 3 spots left, so I'm going to see if I can run one more here. And Ridgetop Mower.
Now is the time to clean out that shed or garage. Ridgetop Mower offers free equipment removal, service and repair of mowers and small engines. And now, service on kerosene heaters, wick replacement, and service for all torpedo blowers. Same-day service on most repairs. Pickup and delivery available. Ridgetop Mower open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday and 8 to noon on Saturday. Call Gary at Ridgetop Mower 615-855-0044 and tell him Lee Marie sent ya. Happy?
Nothing can compare to the down-home customer service that you receive from a small-town, family-run drugstore like Southside Drug Company. Stop in and talk with the friendly staff. They've been specializing in hometown customer service for over 100 years. Store hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, visit SouthsideDrugCo.com. Be sure to tell them Lee Marie sent you.
All right, we are back with Wild Doc, and he's given us some thoughts on cancer. So remember, we do have a phone app for both Android and Apple, and you can go on Facebook and leave comments or questions. Wild Doc, before we get any further, please give your contact information.
Yeah, we're in Clarksville, Tennessee, 755 North Woodson Road, and our phone number there is 931-591-2010. Again, that's 931-591-2010.
All right, great. And then I had a question. When we started, you were talking about the effects of stress.
Yeah.
And would that fall under psychoneuroimmunology?
Yeah.
Okay.
In a sense,
that's so funny because back in my undergrad degree was in psychology, and that is what I was really just all into in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so funny that was so long ago. And I was like, all right. And then I was just thinking too, like, I'm teaching line dance right now, and I'm thinking, this is a great stress reliever, you know. So
it's simple things like that could make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Big, small, a difference is a difference for that individual.
And two, a lot of us that work so much and volunteer a lot, like this is a reminder for us to get out in nature and breathe and really control. Make sure that you're doing something for your stress level because it has such a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
What are the thoughts or questions you think you get people want to hear about?
Well, I was fascinated when you were talking about certain cancers, reacting to certain, that certain foods were good. Like I've heard that like the berries are all great. Are those good for like most all cancers?
Mostly, but then there's ones like black raspberries are way more potent.
Okay.
So,
all
yeah.
right.
So it's just like there's just a ton. And then there's different cancers, different items. Then there's the catch-22 of some of the studies that are done in petri dishes versus in the human body. And so they might not have as strong of effect. There are certain herbs and certain berries that seem to be very prevalent, but can actually increase TGF-beta, which is an immune marker that should be measured in cancer patients if you're going to apply herbal medicine and things like that, because it's a regulatory mechanism at play. And so it like regulates the immune system, but you want a high Th17 type immune response. You want to protect healthy tissue, so you want some regulation. But if you have overregulation, it'll even suppress the Th17 that goes after tissue destruction in cancer cells. So then if you elevate that with certain herbs and berries, and it's super high in that individual, then you're going to have a negative effect by suppressing your immune system then. So it's and that's the reality. Like it's complicated, even to a degree for me. I have to go back and look through things quite frequently to be like, okay, what is this algorithm going to tell me that is going to be the best things for this individual, and make a well-formed and formulated recommendation on what's going to support them. And I support people. I don't treat cancer or anything like that in any way. Things that we do, we do blood testing, we can do hormonal testing, we can do gut GI testing. I'll read a couple. This was a major review about the effects of, let me see what page I'm on to right now, gut microbiota, chemotherapy, and the host. The influence of the gut microbiota on cancer treatment. And here's some statements. Analysis and manipulation of gut microbiota may, analysis, so testing, manipulation, take things and apply pharmaceuticals or apply herbs and nutrition that alters and improves gut microbiota. So the bacteria in the gut, good bacteria, may therefore, this isn't just take a probiotic. Like, don't take away from this and just be like, oh, he said good microbiota, go take a probiotic. It doesn't work like that. Therefore, become a vital component of development of personalized and effective anti-cancer therapies. Like analysis and manipulation of the gut microbiota, therefore, should become a vital component for the development of personalized, effective anti-cancer therapies. It says immunomodulation, modification of the immune response by the microbiota plays a key role in determining chemotherapeutic responses. So chemotherapeutic responses, so applying chemotherapy, did they test your gut before they did that? Because it can be a key component on whether you're going to respond well to that chemotherapy. There's information out there in the literature that says you should analyze your gut before you take chemotherapy, because your gut could actually determine how well you respond to chemotherapy. And then there's evidence to say you need to protect the gut lining, because chemotherapy harms and damages the gut lining, creating permeability, or what is generically called leaky gut. When that occurs, now your body is dealing with a whole lot of other problems. Translocation of bacteria and viruses into the bloodstream, that then the immune system, the cops have to go deal with them. Well, if you could seal the gut or keep it as healthy as possible, there are very simple things that could be done for that. You are then protecting and keeping that barrier up. It's like if we're defending our nation from criminals that are internal, but when we do something to get rid of those criminals, we unlock all the gates at the border and more criminals flood in. Even if they're not cancer criminals, they're viruses and bacteria. Now we got to deal with them. Do you think that helps the person survive or hurts the person's survival chances? It hurts them. So why don't we make sure that we lock the doors? We support the barrier system and allow the person to be able to, their immune system to focus on the primary issue at hand. Like that's the complexity of this situation somebody's going through.
And I know the last time you were on, which was just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe was it last Friday?
Yeah, it was last Friday.
That was a good show, by the way, y'all. If you did not see last Friday's show, go on WSGI, look it up, or on YouTube, and share it, because there was a lot in there. Even like what you were talking about, ibuprofen, because after that I had told somebody, and they said, oh yeah, they had a friend who took so much ibuprofen that it literally made a hole in their stomach. So mention again, because, there's still people there, eating ibuprofen like M&Ms. So what does ibuprofen really do?
You give me a whole bottle, way we used to put it back when I was initially, going into chiropractic school and practice. I used to tell people, well, give me one of your pill bottles. Is it full? What if I swallowed every pill in that bottle right now? What would happen to me? Even ibuprofen. There'd be a good chance you better be pumping my stomach with activated charcoal. And what's that for? To bind to those toxins, that chemical toxin that's going to probably cause me to bleed out, possibly die, or become so toxic to my liver and kidneys that shut them down. And you'd be like, oh, thank God for emergency medicine that could save your life. But it's like, well, shoot, you're being advised to take something that is toxic to a healthy person, especially in higher doses. And I get the understanding that there might be a time, if you don't have healthier alternatives that don't rob Peter to pay Paul, if you don't have other options or knowledge. But the reality is, it's like with ibuprofen, it is a toxin to your body, plain and simple. There are safer, healthier alternatives. It harms your ability to repair tissues. That's why just on a frequent normal dose, like the proper quote unquote daily dose that you're said to be allowed to take, increases your risk of tendon and ligament rupture. So rupturing joints, damaging joints even more. It does not help your joints. It harms your joints. It doesn't allow your healing mechanisms to go about their business and their job to heal those tissues properly. So you're putting your body at risk. And that's more regular use. It's not necessarily now and then with that statistical significant increased risk of tendon rupture. But why not do something that supports better healing, that has anti-cancer effects, that has metabolic effects and improves blood sugar, doesn't increase your cardiac risk like ibuprofen can? It's like, why not do something that not actually pays Peter and Paul, doesn't rob from Peter to pay Paul?
Yeah.
Like that's what we do in my clinic.
So you mentioned fasting, and I know that I've brought that up to some other people, and they've said, well, I'm sure your body is also eating good cells too. So can you explain how the body knows when you're fasting?
The body is intelligent, and we understand that there is a mechanism called autophagy. It's where the body's immune system goes around and starts breaking down damaged, decayed tissue, unhealthy tissue more efficiently, and then it breaks them down and either says this needs to be excreted in feces or in waste, or it breaks it down in some of those amino acids and different things like that. Those compounds or nutrients that are inside cells can be recycled and reused. So the body goes after weakened tissue. It would never be smart. We would have to say that God's design of our body was haphazard or it was just evolution, that it's not intelligent. It's very intelligent. So when we use things like fasting, which was recommended in the Bible to be done extremely frequently, both for, I guarantee you it had physical effects. I don't think God was just one thing, not any physical, actually physical harm. Let's destroy your body as he's not, you know what I mean? Like, I think God was like, I'm going to build up your physical body, but I also want fasting to be focused on me. Like that's the primary reason. The secondary reason, we physically would be benefiting from it. And fasting changes tumor environments. Ketogenic diets are found to actually affect tumor environments metabolically and make the immune system and the metabolic environment around that tumor to be non-conducive for tumorous growth and actually suppressive to cancer growth. These are all studies done either in animal trials or a few that have been done in human trials.
So even like a 24-hour fast is very...
It's going to be beneficial. Yeah, that's on the low end, but you start into that autophagy, especially when you, like even they've shown improved in higher levels of autophagy, which is the breakdown and damage on unhealthy tissues, which cancer would kind of be in that realm. If you were to eat breakfast, but then not eat anything else caloric, no caloric intake until the next morning. And actually, so you get more autophagy if you're fasting before bed rather than just eating dinner alone. So there's little things you can do to modify when you eat that can further enhance it if you are only looking at a very short window, like a 16 to 24 hour feeding window. Like when you feed, so it'd be better actually to eat in the morning and not eat lunch or dinner and have no calorie intake after breakfast. Go to bed on an empty stomach. Your body will break down more damaged and unhealthy tissue and then eat the next morning. So little things like that.
What about sugar? What's your body do?
Don't touch it. And that's the catch-22 of like berries. They have anti-cancer effects. They have compounds in them that help the immune system, antioxidants, help with liver function, a lot of different mechanisms that can be promoting. But then if you eat berries, you're not in ketosis. So do you want to go about it? And that's where the dynamic that, I have to reference studies according to what cancer a patient has. If I'm going to say, is a ketogenic diet probably going to be more beneficial, or is a high nutrient dense fruit and berries and your vegetables, is that diet have more research behind its potential to help you with your cancer? And here's the information. And a lot of times it's one or the other and both have an effect. And so it's just like, what can you adhere to? What are you willing to do? Choose one or the other. Do something that's beneficial.
Right.
Just don't keep eating the same thing.
But at least they can cut out the processed sugars.
Yeah.
Because
that feeds cancer. That creates immunosuppression in itself. Like we suppress the immune system, the standard American diet. We create more insulin resistance, and we create more sugar circulation in the body, in the bloodstream. And that is an environment that's beneficial for cancer to go berserk and go metastatic. So it's like, you at least need to change that environment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So much good information. All right. I have one last sponsor to do before we go, and then we will come back and say goodbye to Wild Doc and also just get his contact information one more time.
It's a new year. Time to book an appointment at DK Styles and Tanning. They offer haircuts for everyone: styling, color, perms, waxing, spray tan, and tanning beds. DK Styles is a big supporter of our military and first responders, offering them haircuts for only $20. DK Styles is conveniently located at 3538 Tom Austin Highway in Springfield. Open Monday through Friday, 9 to 7, and Saturdays, 8 to 3. Book an appointment online, mysalononline.com, or call 615-384-8999. Now is the time.
All right. And they are also doing a special right now on their tans. So if you want to get in there, they have different options for tanning. And so go to DK Styles. It's right over there on Tom Austin Highway. All right, we are finishing up with Wild Doc because it's the first Friday of the month. And, he's got so many great videos. You can learn so much. You can tell how smart he is and just pouring over all this information, all these, research articles. So by all means, go on the WSGI site, look up the old Wild Doc, or just go on YouTube and search for Wild Doc because there's so many great videos out there. So how can they get a hold of you?
The office phone number is 931-591-2010. Again, that's 931-591-2010.
And of course, he does adjustments and all that kind of stuff, but also now functional
medicine, functional immunology, and we're integrating in the next month functional neurology to help children and individuals with neurological injuries or neurodevelopmental conditions. Let's say autism, ADHD, things like that.
Yes, and I'm reminded, you on last Friday, you talked about you had a patient who had autism, and in that case, it was just a matter of going off of wheat, and his brain fog went away.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a study, I love referencing it, and I've seen it clinically in multiple kids where we see exponential improvements in their cognitive abilities, in their development, their speech, things like that. In those who eliminate gluten, there's an article, a case study of a child that was diagnosed with autism, but then another physician did testing to find out that he was a patient dealing with celiac disease, and celiac disease and the proteins of gluten can cross-react and cause the immune system to cross-react with basal ganglia and cerebellum. And by eliminating that immunological inflammatory trigger to his brain and nervous system, it resolved his symptoms that classified him as autistic. Wow. So it literally, quote unquote, like, okay, well, how do I say this legally in a way that doesn't get me in trouble? This is what's dumb about art. I can't say it cured him. I can't say that it got rid of the inflammation that was causing the metabolic and inflammatory mechanisms that dysregulate the nervous system, and the nervous system is no longer dysregulated. So all of the symptomatic classification was gone.
Wow.
That said he had autism. Wow. So he didn't have autism in essence. Mm-hmm. If you think that autism is different than just a check boxes, a list of symptoms, but that's what is autism. And but it's why don't we do that at least for every single kid being diagnosed with neurodevelopmental conditions? Yeah. Make sure that they're not highly reactive to certain foods that could cross-react with their brain.
So remember, guys, you can send in your questions so that next time in May when we meet, we might be picking your question. I do want to remind you that this past Wednesday, Brother T and I did a really good Goi Show as far as events happening in Robertson County. There's so much going on. And one thing I do want to tell you about is this coming Saturday starts the turkey shoot for the American Legion at Post 45. So this is a big fundraiser for our veterans. And it's going to be every Saturday in April from 8 a.m. to noon. And so you can go on Facebook. I will post some more information about that. But just know it's at 2730 Highway 41 South in Greenbrier. So please support our veterans. All right, guys. Like I said, go find that show from last Wednesday. You will see a lot of things. For instance, Epiphany is doing their first Saturday free movie. They're going to do The Blind with free popcorn and all that. So check that out. And we will see you soon. God bless. Make it a great day. You've been listening to WSGI 1100.